Good afternoon and welcome to this week's episode of Safety Culture Solutions, sponsored by Safety Culture Strategies. I'm Mike Kinney, your podcast host. This podcast is committed to providing our viewers with insight regarding tools, techniques, and processes to assist any organization in enhancing their safety culture. In addition, we will routinely have featured guests, including industry leaders, authors, and business owners, offering their perspective on the series of safety culture topics. You can reach us via our Safety Culture Strategies Facebook page, our website, www.scstrat.com, or via an email at mike@scstrat.com. Without any further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce today's guest, Ms. Emily Millikin. She is the Environmental Safety and Health Quality Assurance Manager, Navarro Research and Engineering in Grand Junction, Colorado. Ms. Millikin has over 35 years experience in implementing and managing regulatory, environmental, radiation protection, quality assurance, and safety and health programs at U.S. Department of Energy and Department of Defense chemically and radiologically contaminated sites. Strengths include management and leadership skills, client and stakeholder interface, experience in the site environmental closure process, and experience in all aspects of the environmental safety and health and quality assurance disciplines. Emily's authored a total of 3 books, one of which focuses on integration of safety culture into operational improvement processes, which is very cool. She graduated from Purdue University with a BS in environmental health and double majors in industrial hygiene and health physics. Professional certifications include both Certified Industrial Hygienist, CIH, and Certified Safety Professional, CSP. Emily is currently co-chair for the DOE Energy Facility Contractors Group, FCOG, the Safety Culture Working Group, and is also an advisory board member to the National Supplemental Screening Program, NSSP. Emily, welcome to the show, and thank you for being here. And as we get started, for some of our viewers who may not be in the DOE NNSA world, this Safety Culture Work Group that you co-chair for FCOG, that literally touches hundreds of companies and thousands of personnel throughout the United States.
Correct.
So,
The FCOG organization is really comprised of contractors, contracting companies, small businesses from across the country that support the Department of Energy work. And we focus in on how we can improve safety culture across the country and the complex. Both in nuclear sites, non-nuclear sites, and chemically contaminated sites.
that is excellent, and congratulations being on that co-chair. That is a very heavy lift, and I say it the nice way because you've got a great group of people helping you, and the work of that group is so essential. So kind of jumping into it, because what we'll talk about, and Emily, I think you've seen a couple of the previous podcasts, we're going to go through some ideas and discussion points, and towards the end of it, I'd like to summarize, well, what all did we learn today, the takeaways they can take home. So in today's world, what's one critical skill you think is really important for any leader of an organization regarding being able to have a positive safety culture?
I would say probably, there's so many, but in terms of unification of leadership and creating that positive safety culture, I think it's actually the recognition that the people are the company as well, and that level of respect. When you practice leadership on a daily basis and you're managing folks, that how you display that and then the way that you treat and manage the folks truly establishes the groundwork for your relationship that you will have with your people, the culture that you'll create, but also your behavior and leading and practicing leadership will then infiltrate and flow down through your organization and through your company.
Absolutely correct. And I really like the idea of they are the company, right? And if you treat them with the respect, and that things start making a difference. And for the viewers and listeners today, just I've talked with Emily, and we had the pleasure of running together before, and I said, I really want to get some of this think tank process, for a little better phrase, of how you've been so successful championing culture change. And Rick, you're here in the studio with me. If we could pull up that slide, because we're both a big fan of John Cotter, and he's got his 8-step process for leading change. So could you kind of lead us quickly through those 8 steps and kind of what it meant to you guys, to your success?
Establish a positive safety culture, and you're wanting to make it better for if you have a good culture now. You know, one of the things that you have to do is you have to unify. And what I have found through my experience in the past is that I've actually applied the 8 principles of Cotter for making that change. Because although people generally think of change management in a normal, routine, day-to-day operations of when you're encountering change, when you're wanting to go and change your culture, that is an element or a focus that how do I say this? When you're wanting to go and change the culture or you want to improve it, you need to have a systematic thought process to it, and think about how can I, what is it I want to accomplish? And I found that by applying the 8 principles of Cotter, and applying it to culture, and not necessarily just to a product or a service or an issue that you may have in your company, that it actually provides a roadmap and a systematic approach to how you can be improving your culture. And it forces you to really think about, what is my culture and where do I want to go, to make it a positive place for my employees to work, but also so they want to be there, because it's not just for the company, it's for the people too.
Exactly correct. And one of the steps I like is that sense of urgency, because a lot of organizations, they talk about actually, I point out in my latest book, Navigating Your Safety Culture Journey, a new president came in, decided to do a reorg, took him a year and a half. And it was just, and so that when you don't have that urgency, a lot of times that need to get change moving in the right direction, to realign your trajectory, it's harder to get traction, isn't it?
Correct. And it makes you think about, where is it I want to go? What is it I really want
Perfect.
to, the environment I want my people to work at? And it actually becomes a team effort, because although it's a systematic approach for how you manage change, but it also, you don't do it alone. You are leading it as a leader and practicing leadership and bringing others along with you for that.
Excellent. You're talking about team. Can you kind of share the story? There's your program manager, Stephen Browning, you and I think your head federal contact for legacy management. They were going to be doing a presentation at a national conference. And can you kind of share that story? I found that very insightful.
Okay, great. Thank you. Yes. So recently, well, there were a number of problems associated or elements that we wanted to improve on when I joined the contract. And it was Stephen Browning, who I credit with the leadership and practicing leadership on a daily basis, that created that sense of urgency, the unification. And then as we went through and basically followed each of the steps out of Cotter, but we actually did it for culture and changing our culture. It really unified and brought the company together. And I feel like as we applied those principles, it made us really think about the elements of how you treat people. In order to be able to, in culture, it's a little different than a technical issue.
Yes.
And so you have to really put some thought into it, but it forces you to work together with people to come up with the best answer. And, starting off with a sense of urgency, helping people understand this is where we're at and where do we want to go. And then one of the more important things is helping people recognize or basically communicating to the employees that if in fact you have made a mistake or it's not where you want to be, that you actually say, I could have done a better job and I really want to be better for you, for the people. That is leading, which is leading by example, is saying, okay, I want to be your leader and to help you, and we need to come together to do that.
Be able to come together. And I think all of that effort led up to that presentation I was referring to. And I think there was like a joint decision to have your federal client lead it versus Stephen, right?
Yes. When we went about in orchestrating the change that we did on the most recent change on this contract, it was actually, we went to the client, and it was with the client that we worked together to develop the strategy, because often you find they have issues too. And so it's an opportunity for them to be able to improve their culture as well as to improve ours. And so in the case of the most recent experience that we've had here on this contract, you could map those 8 steps from Cotter against the actions that we took over the past 1.5 to 2 years. Wow. To see where we took the culture.
Excellent, and it's so insightful, and there's lots of tools and techniques out there. And Emily, you've been this a long time, so when you select Cotter, we know it's for good reasons. And just as an aside, he's an adjunct professor for the Harvard Business School. One of his books has been selected as the top 25 business think tank books in the history of America. So he's a serious player in this. And so he didn't get there by accident. I can fully understand why you guys said we had to select him to help us. Can you talk a little bit about employee ownership in the workplace? What's that mean, and what's it even look like?
We also went to the book. It's called Extreme Ownership, and I don't remember the specific full title of it, but it was one of where we embraced it as a company and with each of the employees. So as we're starting to create this culture change on how we want people to behave and how to react and how we want to unify them in a company, we also went through extreme ownership and having people really think about owning what processes or actions or work that they do. Take pride in your work, and how can you incorporate the culture into the work that you're performing. And so it not only helped raise our culture, but it also improved our performance as a contract, because we were holding people more accountable, but they also felt they wanted to be held accountable because it was their work and they had extreme ownership.
Perfect. We're going to take a really quick commercial break, and we'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. We are far from done with this. And when you're hearing from Emily Millikin, you know it's the real deal. We'll be right back.
Safety Culture Strategies provides world-class safety culture and safety program management consultative services for clients throughout the United States. Whether your company is pursuing Voluntary Protection Program STAR designation, ISO 45001 certification, or considering a comprehensive review of your current safety programs and processes, Safety Culture Strategies brings hands-on experience combined with a unique perspective that readily translates from senior senior management to task-level personnel. This collective skill set provides you with a very insightful health check of your overall safety management system that can also assist with reducing injuries and attrition, as well as increasing profitability. Safety Culture Strategies is also certified to provide Ziegler Institute employee engagement training and leadership coaching. When combined with established relationships with federal and state regulators, Safety Culture Strategies is uniquely positioned to assist the safety culture efforts of any company. For additional information, visit www.scstrat.com or call us at 702-780-1410. After all, every company has a safety culture, but is it the culture you want?
So we've been talking a lot of these processes and techniques of what a positive safety culture can look like. I also wanted to talk to you a little bit that you're really on board with this respect and compassion. And especially when we had Tom Ziegler on very recently, Zig Ziglar's son, and to him, it's just readily aligns that he uses the phrase kindness, to build a so I think in some ways, compassion, that's part of your expectations as well, is that people are able to care for each other.
Correct. I think often, especially in the workplace, people do not necessarily feel that they have a voice, that they can speak, but not necessarily being heard. And so one of the things we have really tried to do here is to listen more, which is something I'm still working on. And you know that. But even just trying to, how do you be respectful
Yes.
to people? I view, whether it's a manager that works for me or an employee that works for me, I kind of view myself as working for them.
Perfect.
And have respect for the skill set that they have and the experiences that they've gone through in their life. And to me, if you are able to express that respect and to show it, I think that definitely you have to have that element in your workplace in order for your culture to grow in a positive fashion.
Exactly. And one of the comments I found very, very insightful from you, and candidly, I'm totally on board. It's great to have someone of your expertise also recognize that. Can you talk a little bit of what you're seeing in business today versus being a leader versus simply just commanding?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I had mentioned to you before, there's an excellent quote I really, really appreciate. And I actually was on a business trip in Hawaii and went to the Army Museum and saw a quote from Eric Shiseki. I'm sure I got his name wrong, so I apologize. But I thought the way he expressed it is that you truly need to have compassion and love for those you lead. And the difference is you can command, but it's often a hollow experience that's full of mistrust and arrogance. And so it's those pieces of respect and equality that you can express and promote in your with your employees. That, in my mind, it's that practicing leadership every day and not necessarily commanding. And I think you see often today in business, we command, but we may not lead.
You may not lead. And so we're going to try our commercial break here in just a moment. Before we step away on that point, Emily, to be fair to some of our viewers and some of the leaders that are listening in today and seeing what's going on, this is not necessarily easy to do. Because isn't there a piece of it almost psychologically, you feel like you're giving up control, right? And if you kind of grew up old school, I don't know a better phrase for it, because kind of back in the day, go paint that wall and go home. And candidly, a lot of leaders didn't care what that painter thought. They just want the wall painted, because a lot of times that's how they were treated. So probably maybe newer leaders coming into the industry may not be as much of a challenge. I'm kind of thinking this is something that some leaders have been around for a while, that it's going to be a little tougher for them. Can you expand on that a little bit?
I agree with you on that. I think it's very challenging. You know, you go to school and you learn
Right.
more from textbooks,
Yes.
but when you get out into the business world or when you're out in the workplace, and in particular if you're managing, you know, you have a responsibility to those people. And I don't know that we necessarily, you know, we don't really teach leadership in the universities today. I was very fortunate to be able to work in my career for several folks who are great leaders, and most recently with Stephen Browning, his concept is practicing leadership on a daily basis. And to me, I had to really think about what that meant to me as a person and as a manager. And I don't know that we necessarily recognize that need. When you get out of school today, it's more about the technical pieces and not necessarily about the concepts that are related to people.
I would tell, I'll make a quick comment, then we're going to our break. We had a little hiccup earlier, and I'm totally on board with that. I would offer kind of that same consideration for graduates, somewhere they're getting their bachelor's in safety programs, is that they get a lot of technical skills. I'm not sure so much, is there a lot of emphasis on how you can collaborate with others, collaborate with workers, and be able to, how to discuss with your boss some of these challenges and why they're important. We're going to be right back. Stand by, got to have a commercial.
Safety Culture Strategies provides world-class safety culture and safety program management consultative services for clients throughout the United States. Whether your company is pursuing Voluntary Protection Program STAR designation, ISO 45001 certification, or considering a comprehensive review of your current safety programs and processes, Safety Culture Strategies brings hands-on experience combined with a unique perspective that readily translates from senior management to task-level personnel. This collective skill set provides you with a very insightful health check of your overall safety management system that can also assist with reducing injuries and attrition, as well as increasing profitability. Safety Culture Strategies is also certified to provide Ziegler Institute employee engagement training and leadership coaching. When combined with established relationships with federal and state regulators, Safety Culture Strategies is uniquely positioned to assist the safety culture efforts of any company. For additional information, visit www.scstrat.com or call us at 702-780-1410. After all, every company has a safety culture, but is it the culture you want?
And we're back with Emily Millikin talking a lot about the programs of processes of safety culture. And then, Emily, I want to follow up just a little bit more, and we're talking about the importance of being able to lead versus just command. And so I think for a lot of the viewers or listeners, maybe one of the better ways to help them get aimed the right direction, find someone like yourself that has a lot of experience and ask them to become your mentor, especially if they're inside the same company.
Mm-hmm. I agree. And I try to mentor quite a bit myself.
Perfect.
Yeah. But I go back to the practicing the leadership and understanding and focusing in on what it is you want to accomplish as you're trying to improve your culture. I think that is probably one of the most significant points, that if you want to, as you're moving forward and want to have that positive safety culture, is practicing that leadership on a daily basis and actually showing the compassion with your employees. And I'll tell you, one of the most significant, probably most impactful experiences I had was on the contract I'm on today, where a senior leader who is the operations manager stood up in front of 50 people and said, you know, I was wrong. I made a
Wow.
mistake. I was wrong. I didn't manage it the right way. And I asked for your forgiveness. And as I try to rebuild the trust. And there wasn't a dry eye in the room. But when you have the compassion and you have that element of what makes us human, it truly changes it in my mind from commanding to leading. And I don't know that I have the courage to do that because that takes a lot of courage.
You're absolutely correct. I was just sitting there thinking, okay, so here's the president, the program manager, whatever their title is, in a big room with the people that, you know, I always got control of the helm. They're saying, you know, I really messed
Yep.
this up. Can you forgive me? How
Can you
powerful
forgive me?
is that? Wow. And yeah,
I have,
that's not for the faint of heart. I got one more thing I want to talk to you about, so that you've been at this a long time, and you've done a lot of different speeches, and you are high on the list of people that love to have a different types of national forums, whether Industrial Hygiene Group, ASSP. So if you've discussed some things with a given group, and maybe got some CIHs and CSPs in the room, maybe some of them newer to the CERT, if you will. So at the end of your discussion, what's 3 or 4 things you want to make sure that they write down and they're able to take home and use later on?
that's a great comment. Communication skills, in particular in safety and health and industrial hygiene, we're the ones that generally communicate with the workers and employees on health issues, safety issues, and the ability to be able to build a relationship with the employees is important. I will also take that same thread and push it to managers. Building of relationships is extremely critical because, just as I said with that previous example, the ability to build that trust and to unify, that was a watershed moment for us in this company. And it was truly a life-changing experience for me, because I thought, you know, if I see this person this man who is such a great manager, but he made a mistake and he asked for forgiveness, it really sent the message to the rest of us that, you know what, it's okay to make a mistake. It's okay to admit when you're wrong.
Beautiful.
We all do. But, you know, having that relationship, building the relationships and then practicing it on a daily basis is the most important in my mind.
Most important. Well, I want to thank you for being on the show today. To summarize real quickly, got to recognize people are your company. You want to treat them with respect. Demonstrate extreme ownership. Go Google a couple of books, especially one by Dr. Cotter on that. You gotta have compassion. And as for the people out there, the practitioners of industrial hygiene and safety, you want to be able to consistently communicate. People understand what's going on. Don't talk over them inadvertently to where you can have them engaged. And you want to be able to you want to be able to have them engaged, and you don't want to command. And that includes this episode of Safety Culture Solutions. I want to thank our featured guest, Emily Millikin, once again for being on the show. She is absolutely amazing and shared an incredible perspective about safety culture from an organizational perspective. Please increase the awareness of our podcast. You can click the subscribe, like, and share buttons. Also include you to send us any questions you may have, topics you'd like to see addressed in a future podcast, requests for featured guests, or other items of interest. These podcasts can also be found on Safety Culture Strategies website, www.scstrat.com. In closing, I want to share the following quote from Zig Ziglar. If you can dream it, you can achieve it. And until next time, wishing you all the best with your safety culture journey. Bye-bye for now.